Good morning and welcome to Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. This is always a syndicated live program of the network featuring chit-chatting and conversation on special interest topics, news, events and stories through correspondence reports, expert opinion and stakeholders analysis. In the headlines for today, Jungle Justice, suspected phone snatcher dies after mob attack. Lagos State, men spent 661 billion naira on non-partners in 2024. This is from a survey that was conducted. Presidency, Tinubu appoints Pro-Chancellor and Chairman Kachi. National House of Assembly reps donate 705 million naira to Nigerians for Ramadan. Corruption, Diezani urges court EFCC to retrieve seized assets. And finally, in the United States, Harvard announces free tuition for families making 200K annually. Do not forget, we're still open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can always connect with us on all our 8 and socials on YouTube, on Atlantic Television Network on Instagram and TikTok, on Atlantic TV Net, Twitter, on Atlantic TV Net. You can watch us live on our website at www.atlantic.net.work.tv. We will go on a quick break. When we return, as always, we will continue with the rest of the story. So stay with us. Welcome back. Joining us to discuss today's story is Eyumosan Mufasa. He's a public affairs analyst and a social commentator. Thank you so much for joining us, Mufasa. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nishima.
It's, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Police command in Lagos State has confirmed that a suspected armed robber died in the hospital after being rescued from an attempted lynching. The command spokesperson TSP Benjamin Hundeyin disclosed this to his men on Monday in Lagos. He stated that the incident occurred on Saturday at Akarele Junction in the Agege area of the state. On March 15, a distress call received at Isokoko Division about a suspected armed robber who specialized in snatching mobile phones from commuters. The suspect was apprehended to a stupor by an angry mob who were on the verge of lynching him. Hondayin said, upon receiving the report, police teams were swiftly deployed to the scene. The mob fled upon sighting the police. The suspect, who had sustained severe injuries, who was rushed to the hospital for treatment, where he later died, the police spokesperson. He said that preliminary investigations revealed disease and his accomplice, currently at large, allegedly stabbed a middle-aged woman and disposed her of her phone. It will be recalled that Inspector General of Police Kayode Betokun on Tuesday ordered a ban parading of suspected criminals before the media police operatives across the country. Betokun explained that the decision was taken in order to uphold the human rights of every citizen and adhere to global practices in policing. I would love to get your thoughts on this jungle justice issue because I know that you would have actually seen a first-hand experience or real life situation, probably on TV or not, of this kind of thing happening. As much as instances, there could be possibilities that most of these suspected individuals that deal on this illegal phone snatching, if that's if that's the word, there's always been instances like that. Do you think taking laws into the hands of individuals is a necessary thing? We're still trying to let go of the Alofo incidents that whereas these individuals, those young men, vibrant young men, were eventually innocent of the accusation. So yes, in this instance, this particular gentleman actually committed this offense. But do you think a mob actually the best way to handle this?
Well, thank you very much. As much as I would not agree that the suspect was a man, I also would not subscribe to jungle justice in any form. They usually say every day for the thief, one day for the owner. We've come a very long way, as a nation, trying to remove ourselves, from some certain form of barbarism, uncivilized practices. But side by side, you should also consider the level and amount of frustration that Nigerians are currently passing through. When you add that up, and somebody just come from nowhere, dispossess you of your valuable, not just ending at that, stabbing the victim, that could equally elicit the kind of response and reaction that you got from the mob. Like I've said before, we are not advocating or supporting jungle justice. Desperate times, desperate times. So I also want to say that the police, I think the police are meant to be at all places, because before it gets to that level, I'm sure the guy must have been caught, the noise, the pandemonium and all of that. I'm sure if We had police officers stationed at strategic location around that area before it would have led to that stage where the guy, would sustain such grievous injury that led to his death. The police would have intervened and perhaps taken him into custody. But most times when these things happen, before the police get to the point, the actions, is taking place, it's usually serious criminals have, distorted peace. They've been raining terror on innocent Nigerians who are equally passing through the same hardship, who are equally facing the same consequences of the kind of bad leadership that the Nigerian populace are experiencing. Like I said before, the frustration is I think it has gotten to the peak. So any little spark, people they are looking for an avenue to rent and vent the guy. So the guy, unfortunately for him, he found himself at the wrong side. By no doing of others, he found himself at the wrong side of history. I'm sure if he was thinking of something meaningful to do with his life, trying to get himself involved in a decent, living, would have still been alive. So it's going to serve as a lesson, to desperate young men who think that the best way to eke out a living for themselves is to cause discomfort for other people. You don't go around, inflicting pains, on people just because you feel you have what it takes to do so. So it's quite unfortunate what has happened. I've said before, we are condemning jungle justice in whatever form. I will not sit here to rationalize jungle justice because for me, I think it's barbaric, it's uncivilized. But I would also want to say that the law enforcement agencies should ensure that they are stationed at strategic locations so that before this happens, they must have nipped it in the bud, because when the woman started shouting, or when the people started shouting, raising the alarm, if we had law enforcement agencies around, the situation would have been, controlled. We will not get to the stage where somebody would have been beaten to pulp, and eventually die. So it's quite unfortunate, but for me, I think every day for the thief, one day for the owner. People should stop, taking into the life of crime as a way to, make out a living for themselves.
Thank you on that, Mr. Mufasa. Well, you said a whole lot, and you mentioned one situation about the fact that this will be a sign or deterrent.
Yeah, an eye opener for people
for the ones that want to,
take to the life of crime and all of that.
But if we check, this kind of situation has actually happened over and over, and you've made mention of, you've listed a whole lot of situations that can push individuals to engage in things like this, and ways that things to decent jobs, like you mentioned, in order not to engage in this. There are lots of decent jobs there that any individual wants to engage in, to at least get a daily meal for himself or herself. It's not a guaranteed situation that you have jobs everywhere, but to an extent, there are menial jobs. That's the word. That's in the ball. There are people that do not want to stress to work for money. You see cases of some of them that the arm robbers, kidnappers, the make mention of them, even this petite phone snatchers. in that instance, you know. And then you made mention of the situation surrounding the country that can also push an individual to engage in things like that. So it's more like you were pinching from here and here, which
Yeah.
is also understandable
Thank
in
you.
that instance, yeah. But my question now would be, a life was actually lost in this instance. Then the question here is about jungle justice. Yes, this individual has actually committed an offense punishable by law, which is snatching of those phone, attacking the woman in question. There are due course. You talked about the security agencies are supposed to be, and where do you see them in the marketplace? Have you seen anyone marketplace in a very long time? The security agencies, in case if things like that happen, at the junction where cars drop and pick up passengers. Do you see anyone there? You know, so it just cuts across every aspect in this instance. But my take home is about the issue of jungle justice. Yes, this particular individual actually did this, committed this offense, but we have to be sensitized mentally to the fact that we are not supposed to, you know, take laws into our hands in that instance. You know, in a situation that this lady, this victim had died on the spot, that guy is supposed to be punished, dealt with, in a very serious way by the law. You know, but now the thing is how to call this issue of jungle justice that is being meted on individuals, whether right or wrong individuals, are accused or not accused individuals. That's why I made mention of the issue of the ASU, the Alufo. Eventually, after everything, they noticed that these young men were innocent. You know, in that aspect, this particular one was caught red-handed, which is also a reasonable a situation for, you know, the people around, you know, to get to that point of venting their anger, because someone has asked a question, why is everybody angry in Nigeria? You know, you'd be wondering, like like you just made mention on that instance, that because of things around, people just want to vent their pain on people in that instance. But I just want to get your thoughts on that part, please.
You know what? You see, um, people are actually going through a lot, no doubt, but it still doesn't justify anybody, you know, taking the life of crime. Okay, and to a large extent, I think Nigerians, should I say, vast majority of Nigerians, I mean, not to be correct, you know, in the ratio, but I feel and I believe that a vast majority of Nigerians have lost confidence in our legal system, in our criminal procedural um, um, criminal procedural law. Now it is said, according to the criminal code, that a man is assumed innocent until he or she is proven guilty, you know, in a court of law. So even the man that was even seen or caught in the act, before the law, the man is innocent, you know, which means if he has a good lawyer that can argue very well, he can still get off the hook, you know. And a lot of people just believed, if we allow the law to take its course, which in most cases they don't really see it happen, you know. There are a lot of people that will tell you that this is somebody that was caught last week committing a very grievous act, a very terrible crime, and he was arrested. The next thing, you see the same individual
Back to the crime.
you know, back on the streets. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sure this particular person, like according to the news, that himself and his gang, they were notorious for things like that, including other forms of criminalities. So I just think the only way that we can reduce to the barest minimum jungle justice. One, we need to strengthen our institutions. The criminal justice system need to be recalibrated. There has to be some reforms so that when somebody is caught, even by the mob, and handed over to the police, the procedure needs to be quick, and it has to be void of any form of undue influence. Because some of these guys, they have godfathers who has so much influence, money, that could just, look for a way to circumvent the system. So we need to see how we can strengthen the criminal justice system so that the people will begin to rekindle the confidence that they have in the system. That's one. Then secondly, the national orientation agencies, they also need to come up programs so that the people can equally be sensitized on the negative aspects of jungle justice. You just cited what happened to the famous Alo 4, where an alarm was raised and the whole situation was misconstrued. The young men were beaten and gruesomely murdered. It was a mob action. So these are some of the instances that can be cited. Then lastly, the Nigerian police, I think they should do more to be visible at all spots in the country. I know it's not easy because the last time they said they are, understaffed, the Nigerian police, they lack manpower and all of that. So there is need to increase the numerical strength of the Nigerian police so that we can have police officers stationed at strategic locations. Okay. So that the moment things like this comes up, before it gets to that level, a police officer would have intervened and prevent things like that from occurring. So these are some of the things that the country, the stakeholders who are our leaders can look into and see on how to, bring it up, so that we can reduce this issue of jungle justice and also build confidence in the minds of the people so that somebody, once the person is caught committing an act, the people have confidence that when they take the person to the police, the person will be meant to go through the processes of the law, and the issue will be followed through and through logically.
Thank you so much on that, Mufasa. You've spoken well. Survey conducted in 2024 has shown an estimate of 661 billion naira was spent by men in Lagos State to satisfy their sexual urge with the commercial sex workers, otherwise known as runs girls. According to the survey shared by an ex-user, Kayode M.O., of the 661 billion naira, the sum of 329 billion naira was paid to hire the girls, while 332 billion naira was paid on the associated costs. The statistics from the survey shows that of the 3.1 million naira sexually active men between the age of 20 and 69 in the 20 local government areas in Lagos, 1.86 million naira of them engage in this transactional sex with non-partners. The average rate charged by the girls involved in the transaction is about 36,750,000 GAs behind Etiosa. In terms of expensive transactional sex include Surulere, Kosofe, Alimosho, and Oshodi Solo. One of the 329 billion naira received by the sex workers, 93 billion naira was spent by the ladies on body and skin maintenance products, including natural hair. The survey showed that the ladies didn't just engage in the practice for themselves alone, as they supported their families with 62.5 billion naira. This is according to the survey. Another 62.5 billion naira was gulped by clothing, accessories, rent, cars and e-hailing, fitness and healthy living. A 46 billion naira was spent on businesses like crypto, trading, forex and betting. Health and education gulped 15 billion naira each, as the ladies spent on antibiotics, supplements, STD treatments, checkups, bachelor programs, courseworks, project writers and settlements, amongst others. The survey showed that apart from the sum paid for sex, Lagos men also spent 332 billion naira associated costs on various activities, with entertainment, food, and hospitality being responsible for a joint paid trips, vacations, cars, and luxury items in the more premium segments represented the top single category of these other costs. Drugs, sexual enhancers, stimulators, and sex accessories also enjoyed a combined 33.4 billion naira in the time period, the survey said. There is a disclaimer that this is not about sex. The disclaimer here is it's not literally about enhancing it. It's not encouraging it. It's an estimate. It's a survey of how much in 2024 men actually decide to spend. This is just in Lagos State as it stands. You want to smile, you can actually do that. There's a disclaimer. We're not encouraging it, but it's the topic of discussion is the time, the attention, the money, the resources that actually gets to be put into patronizing non-partners in this instance. You know, we don't want to talk about Rivers State here. There are other states that are also patronizing this non-partners. I just want to get your thoughts on what you think on this, please.
Yeah, well, for me, I believe that the energy and resources that was put in conducting this research, if it was converted into some other meaningful and gainful venture, you know, it would have been more appreciated.
Okay.
That's my personal view and opinion.
Right. Okay.
Because we are talking about activities of people who can afford what makes them happy. You know, I don't know if commercial sex is allowed, you know, by our laws. You know, in whatever way you want to put it, it's still prostitution. You know, it's prostitution. So when you pay for sex and it has become, you know, an all-commerce affair, you know, the general term for it is just prostitution. I know they call it hookup, they call it runs, they call it some other names and all of that. And then again, it's more than the budgets of so many states in this country. And that's research. You know, the survey was done in Lagos alone. That means if you add it up, if you add some other big cities in Nigeria to that equation, like Port Harcourt, like Abuja, you know, Owerri, Enugu, and some of the cities where some of these activities thrive, we'll be talking about almost 500 billion or whatever the case may be. So for me, I believe that this goes to show that we are really not investing our time as a people and as a government on things that will advance the fortune of this country.
Hey, when you spoke from the beginning, you said that you did not encourage the survey because you feel.
I said I'm not excited. I'm not excited
because
about it.
It should have been put on more important things.
Yeah.
But in as much as that's here, you are saying it is not a necessary action to take.
No, what I'm saying is that we have a lot of things that we can invest our resources on in terms of research and survey. You know, I will not sit here to begin to condemn people who are either selling or buying. You know,
well, what
services.
do you think actually push most of these men to engage in activities like this?
It gives them what gives them joy. So what's the big deal?
And the just that the survey did not list it. That most whether they were unmarried or married.
It doesn't really matter whether they are married or married.
No, but you know
when
that
you get to
if you have to check this survey, if you have to check the survey, I'm sorry to hold you there, most of them would be married men in this instance.
It's inconsequential for me, you know, whether you're
Why
married.
do you say so?
No, it doesn't matter. If you can afford it, then good for you.
It is not a legal means of business in the country.
You know,
I know that they have been trying to get authorization or authentication in the country, but the I don't know if it's the National Assembly or the representatives that declined that, you know, that call that they wanted, you know, to be recognized in the country, you know. So I don't really know where you stand. If you can make
No,
me
my stand
understand
is this. My stand is this. Prostitution, in whatever name you want to call it, is different from a guy or a man meeting a girl and they have mutual consent, especially a girl that is of the age of consent when it comes to sexual and sexual activities or sexuality, as the case may be. You understand what I'm saying? That's, you will say there is mutual consent. One, the girl or the woman gave a consent and they became friends, mutual friends, and you know, the whole other things followed. That person has to be of age. That is not a crime.
this issue now, it's also getting into the underage at the moment.
No, that is when the relevant agencies and departments of governments, you know, they have child welfare, you know, ministries and all of that. I'm sure we have agencies of government that are into such kind of you know, arrangements where they take up issues of men who are, you know, indulging in amorous relationship with underage girls.
Okay.
That in itself, it's unacceptable.
Okay, if I may ask
So-
you, Mufasa, why do you think most of these ladies engage in these activities?
Well, I cannot sit here to say why, because I'm not in their minds.
Okay.
You understand me? So some people will say there's no job, but I know some, you know, I'm aware of some, you know, who have jobs, but they still do what they popularly call hook up and all of those things, and you know, what have you. The moment sex is exchanged for money, it has become a commercial relationship.
Okay.
And these are some of the things I believe that the people who conducted that survey, you know, must have also added to their data. Of course, some of these surveys, most of their reports, you know, can still be faulted. You know, can still be faulted because how did you now get to that amount?
Okay.
How do you now know who and who and who and who in Lagos State? Are you telling me that they are privy to know all the girls? These things are just done and they draw inferences and
So you do not
assume.
think that they go to these places?
It is not possible.
And
It is not.
conduct
It is
the
not
survey?
possible. They may have. They may have conducted.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that the figure cannot be accurate.
Okay, if we have to talk about the tax issue right now, do you think these people, since they are not recognized as legitimate workers in the country because they are seeking for that attention, if we come to the tax payments, are they supposed to be involved in generating the economy?
That is the thing. So if you want to legalize it, or you are saying that, okay, these are also people who make up the workforce, the question now is, do they pay taxes? You know, so you cannot add it to the labor force and begin to say that commercial sex workers are making billions and all of that and all of that and
So
all
they're
whatnot.
not supposed to pay taxes in that
Not
instance?
suppose. You can, if you want to streamline it, if you want to add it, that means the government need to now provide, you know, an enabling environment and also create patterns for them You know, government now need to start building nightclubs, building houses where some of these girls can be staying.
So instead
Get
of
an aggregate number.
instead of encouraging it by building most of those facilities that you have mentioned, are there no possible means that the government can take in order to bring them out? Because we know that in Lagos State, as it stands, the armed men go out in the night to arrest most of this commercial
The
sex workers
the ones they go after,
in order to curb it.
the ones they go after are those low profile, those low budgets. You understand me? Now they now have levels in this in this endeavor.
Okay.
They have levels. They have the ones who stay on the streets. Those ones they collect anything, provided they get something. They have the ones who stay in brothels, where people go and do short time and all of those things. Then there are categories. They have the ones who stay in 5-star hotels, and you know, if you want to bring them out, these are the ones that, according to the survey, that collects up to 100,000-200,000. They have the ones who are working class. They go to work. They have jobs. These ones, they won't say they don't. They have jobs. But because of the lifestyle they want to put up with, they want to wear synthetic hair of almost close to 500, 700, 800,000. You know, because you know what I'm saying. They want to use iPhone 15 Pro Max. You are working in a place where you are paid 350,000. It would not be able to meet up with the kind of lifestyle that you want to live. So the best option for them is to augment. In fact, for them, the other one pays better. When you go out and meet a man somewhere, because of your standard, because of you've been able to maintain your body and all of that, you know, you now have a prize for that. So it has gotten to that level, and it is not, to be completely honest, it's not peculiar to Nigeria alone.
True.
You have such level of prostitution even in Europe and America, you know. But then again, in that other climb, there is equally ways that some of these things can be managed, because you don't just transfer 500,000 US dollars to somebody just because you had, you know, intercourse with the person. Even the system will want to know what's the reason and all of that. So there are two ways to this. Like I've said, I will not sit here to condemn anybody.
Okay.
I'm not sit here to judge anybody. What I would just say is the amount of resources, time that we are putting in this kind of research. Because if you are doing a survey and a research, I'm sure the sole aim is to see how to improve society, how to solve problems. You know, it's not just to give information alone. So there are other things that this country is in their need, like the number of people who are out of school, the number of Nigerians who don't have jobs, the number of Nigerians who can't fend for their families. These are some of the kind of research, so that the government can equally see how to draw inference from researches like that.
So don't you
Since the
think
government
most of
has
this you made
refused
mention of
to do
is
it.
the reason why these individuals engage in this activity?
No, but which individuals?
The commercial workers.
Commercial workers of which company?
The commercial sex workers.
No. See, they say prostitution is the oldest profession. I don't know why they call it a profession, because you don't go to any school to study to become a prostitute. Whether you want to call it hookup, you want to call it whatever name, prostitution is prostitution.
Thank you.
And no, let me conclude. Let me conclude.
Okay.
And the government and their people, they are also part of the system that encourages some of these things that we hear and see today.
Okay.
You know, so it is, I know for a fact that it cannot be stopped. What I'm only saying is that if you want to do research, don't tell us what we know already.
Okay.
Already we know that their customers are some of these our so-called leaders and big politicians. We know all these things. Let us see how we can go into researches and surveys that will give information that can impact positively
Okay.
in the life and time of this country, especially now that we are passing through in fact, I don't know the best word to use to describe the prevailing circumstances in this country, but like I've said before, I will not judge, I will not condemn.
Okay. Thank you so much in that, Mufasa. We will go on a quick break quickly. When we return, we will continue with the rest of the stories. To stay with us. Welcome back. President Bola Tinubu has appointed the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Matthew Kuka, as the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Federal University of Applied Sciences, Akatia, Kaduna State. The appointment comes for the principal officers for the university, including Professor Kurik Barnabas as Vice Chancellor, Sanusi Adamu as Registrar, Ibrahim Dahat as Bosri, and Professor Daniel Abubakar as University. Deep experience and dedication to advancing education in Nigeria. Why this discussion? Why do we have to know the reason for this appointment? Well, the thing is, we may recall that the bishops of, like you stated, the issue that people have been going, then NYSC officials are trying to keep her quiet, not to say word. There was an alleged statement that was made by an aide that she is supposed to be sentenced to death for speaking up. In as much as those bishops made statements, Tinubu came to reply that he's actually working. He's doing things right to make the country a better place. Now the question is, why appoint the bishop as the pro-chancellor and the chairman of that university? Is there supposed to be, is this?
Well, when you talk about bishops, it reminds me of, you know, there was a certain set of bishops that visited the president before he was elected into office. I don't know if you could still remember the bishops that came, you know, and endorsed him, you know, at the level of a Miloko, you know. So the president has always had nice and cordial relationship with bishops, you know. It could be a deliberate ploy to, you know, Bishop Hassan Kuka has been one. All of a sudden, the president has now thought it expedient to give him an appointment. Recently, I'm aware that Professor Atahiru Jega was equally appointed by this administration. And could this also be another attempt to muscle, in a very clever way, dissenting voices? You know, I'm aware that this particular administration has zero tolerance to criticism. I'm happy in the build-up to this particular topic, you made reference to the NYSC girl who have spoken against this administration. Now we are seeing Bishop has accepted the appointment or not. This morning, some commentators, as I was coming, some commentators on radio were even saying that the bishop shouldn't accept that appointment. You know, that it could be likened to a poison, so that you can now be controlled in a way, you know. So these are some of the issues. As a Catholic bishop, I'm sure there are a lot of responsibility that he has in his hands. There's nothing wrong, excuse me, there's nothing wrong if a clergy is found worthy of a certain position, but when you consider what is currently going on in this country and the stance of certain individuals, just like someone like Omoyole Sowore giving an appointment, you know, you just know that all these are attempts just to reduce the dissenting voices, you know. So of course, not if, I'm sure Bishop Hassan Kuka is eminently qualified for that position, but I just stated my worries and concerns that this same man, this clergy, is somebody who has been a very vocal voice speaking against bad government and bad governance, including this particular administration. At a certain time, he came out to say that Nigerians are not getting the best of leadership and all of that, that the government should sit up, you know. So if this kind of individual has now been converted, you are not converting him. It is intentional and deliberate move to shut out dissenting voices and to reduce the number of people who are genuinely and constructively and objectively criticizing this government.
Okay, thank you on that, Mr. Mufasa. In that instance, what would this entail in a general understanding, the decision of the president-led administration, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Does that mean he is actually working like he stated? He has talked about baby steps and the light after the tunnel for Nigerians to wait for. or it's actually an entirely different situation. I will still go back to this lady that has actually been on the news and on almost all the social media platforms for the past 2 days over the statement that she made in NYSD Copper, over the hardship. I'm not going
How
to
terrible
sugarcoat
the
it.
leadership
I'm
of
not
this
going to
country.
sugarcoat it because we like, how do we engage in those activities where the the bad governance incident was not a good one? The end SARS situation, in as much as it was a peaceful protest at some point, it turned out to an entirely different situation. So what's the guarantee that when Nigerians actually come up to speak, they will be listened to? This lady has come out in the limelight.
And I can tell you for free that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria guarantees every individual the right to an opinion, the right to speak up against the ills of society. There's freedom of speech. Of course, no freedom is absolute. But then again, that I decided to come out and speak up against the effects of the bad leadership of this country. I have not committed a crime. So I do not need any form of guarantee other than what the grown norm of this country has given me.
Okay.
If not that, we are practicing an adulterated democracy. You cannot, if we also consider the vast majority of Nigerians who are looking up to him, who have looked up to him as somebody who is an icon, as somebody who has stood on the path of justice, who has stood on the path of fairness and what is right, who has stood and spoken vehemently against bad governance and injustice.
Thank you.
The question is this current administration doing what is right? So does it mean that after he has accepted the appointment, will he still be able to speak up? Because it now becomes a case of your view of the road changes when you move from the passenger seat to the driver's seat and vice versa. So it has a lot to do with integrity. So for me, we wait in the time to come to see how the bishop will react to this announcement.
Thank you on that, Mufasa. Moving forward, representatives on Monday donated 705 million naira to the federal government to support vulnerable Nigerians during the month of Ramadan. The Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, announced this when President Bola Tinubu hosted principal officers of the Green Chamber to an iftar dinner at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, Abuja. Tajuddin presented the donation on behalf of the lawmakers, saying they are committed to alleviating the economic hardship of the most vulnerable Nigerians. Okay, are you aware that schools have actually been closed up over this Ramadan celebration that is going on at the moment?
Schools in
the
some
north,
parts,
in the northern parts of when you close down schools, what will this amount actually do for your individuals? I'll not forget yourself.
It's a very terrible, and for me, it's diversionary. It doesn't make sense.